panel. This topic is quite important, I believe. It's quite important, as all the panel discussions are. But this one is going to be focusing on the pharmaceutical serialization of ensuring drug traceability and safety. I'd like to invite to the stage Brian Wanyahu, Tony Sorensen, and Ahmed Ez. Yes, a round of applause for our panel. And Tony, where did Tony go? Oh.
I'll just get it.
All right, no problem, no problem. All right, how's everyone in the room doing? Everyone okay? Yes or yes? Did you notice how no wasn't an option? You didn't notice? All right, let's get some fresh air into those lungs. Raise one hand up. Take a nice deep breath. And out. Change hands. Breathe in. And out. 2 hands up. Shake it. And now we're all feeling a lot better. I must say, I did enjoy the doctor's face exercises. Yes, I found myself doing them there. I know I looked funny, but I was, you gotta do those things. You gotta keep the face nice and supple. We're still looking for Tony. Tony. There's a silly joke about the name Tony. What do you call a guy without shins? Tony? No? I'm kidding, I'm so sorry. It's one of those jokes that you learn as a child that just never leave you. Like what do you call a guy with a shovel in his head? Doug. All right, gentlemen, the stage is yours.
Sorry about that, I was on the toilet. I apologize. Yeah, we don't actually have a moderator, do we? No. It's sort of we try to keep an open and free discussion about drug safety overall, since that is one of the main issues of the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah, we haven't met before.
Unfortunately, no. It's my bad. So let's first introduce ourselves to the audience and to ourselves as well. So I'll start with myself, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Okay, my name is Ahmed Ez. I'm Regional Franchise Director, responsible for the therapy area, sales and marketing. The therapy area is gastroenterology and metabolic diseases in a company called Newbridge, and from its name, it's a bridging company. We're bridging innovative molecules and treatments from companies who are not based here in the Middle East and North Africa, from Europe, Japan, States, to the Middle East and North Africa. We are bringing their innovative treatments, registering them in the region, and accessing their innovations to the patients here who are in need. I'm responsible for the sales and marketing. I have 17 years of experience in the industry. I'm a pharmacist by education, Egyptian national, living here and based in UAE. And pleasure meeting you all.
It's great meeting you. I know I've met Brian before. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. So my name is Brian. As indicated earlier, I'm a chartered certified accountant. And I was a banker for 17 years. Transitioned to the pharmaceutical industry, post-COVID, just to try and make some positive impact in that area. Co-founded MediConnect Pharmaceuticals in Zimbabwe with my partner Dexter Blackstock. He's a British former footballer. So we are working to try and bring cost-effective methods of delivering drugs to the general population in Zimbabwe. We are also trying to grow into the Southern African region to bring that access to healthcare to the underprivileged minorities in those countries. So we are here to talk about traceability.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody missed that I was here before, my name is Tony. I work went from medicine to life science, worked for Big Pharma for a few years, absolutely hated it. So I started my own company based on different principles, different value propositions, and different values. Yeah, I think the main topic here is, of course, to identify the problem with falsified medication and try to identify, maybe also from a geographic scale, where we're talking about overall without pointing any fingers, and also sort of a little bit the references also, just to get some statistics on this, which is very, very wide, like instead of pointing fingers. So there's the stats I've seen, it was about a year ago, I believe that it was between 9-10% up to about 40%, depending on where we are in the world, where we see falsified medication and falsified APIs, which is like, it's unacceptable and it's very dangerous. And of course, that is all driven by greed and not patient safety. What do you guys think?
I agree totally. If you look at the numbers, the false medicines industry is accounting for close to $10 billion. Counterfeit medicines that are being peddled across the countries. It's a dangerous statistic. Why? Because you must understand that if you are taking medication and it's not the right medication, it's counterfeit medication, you are going to have complications later on down the line. Where I come from, this is a big problem. Why? Because you end up with abuse. People, you can't trace where the drug has come from. There is no accountability. No one is held responsible for this problem. And this leads to so many deaths, dysfunctional communities, children that won't be able to go to school because they are high on some of these drugs, and they are mixing up and making concoctions of these drugs just to get high. So if we do not solve that problem and are able to trace where drugs are coming from the manufacturer to the time they get to the consumer, we are going to have a serious problem on our hands in the future.
Absolutely, I'm going to pass it on. I was just thinking that there's also a huge political aspect to this, right? Where there is corruption, and that's one of the main issues that we're also dealing with in certain parts. What's your point of view?
Sure. Can I just step back a little bit, because I'm not sure that everyone here in the ballroom is aware of the serialization as much as we try.
Sure.
So just to shed more light for the audience on what serialization really is. So if we just had a bottle of water, you'll find the serial number here. And this serial number is, like we scan, it shows the identity. In the pharma industry, it's more strict. It's more of a serial number with a batch number. So serialization is adding a serial number reflecting the object to a digital code with the manufacturing details, the batch details, manufacturing date, and expiry date. The thing is that now being more regulated through the authorities by the US FDA and the European medicinal agencies, and more regulatory authorities now being implemented and enforced by local regulatory authorities country by country, is that medicine that should enter the country should be serialized, pack by pack. And this should be registered by the local authorities through the manufacturers, even if it's manufactured locally, before it enters the market, and countries here varies on the levels of serialization, but until it's dispensed. This is the best level of serialization. So this tracing of the data of the product since its entry until the dispensing allows here the authority to track and trace the product flow from the manufacturing and prevents the counterfeit, as Brian said. So, and this
Thank you for saying that, by the way. Really important. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. So, and this block the counterfeit here. Because pharma industry is quite an easy industry to copy. Most of the tablets are starch, and it's a very profitable one if you couple the tablets with the starch and compressing machine and then blistering and packing and then ship or even not ship, copy the artwork and then pack and unfortunately many people are making a fortune out of these counterfeit products. That's why the authorities, and which is totally unsafe and may lead to side effects or lack of efficacy, which is the placebo that's being used for the clinical trials. But at the end of the day, it's cheating of the people who are in it. At the end of the day, these are patients who might be us. There are consequences, yes, but there are some other consequences that are related more into the quality. What if the product itself, the original product itself, needs an immediate recall? So these systems of the track and trace might be very helpful to just recall the product is as easy as it's seen in the flow. That it could be recalled, yes, this product has flew through this process, through these channels, so it could be recalled easily, which is also helpful for the safety at the end of the day for those patients who have been exposed to it or not exposed. So this is another type of negative safety. It's not just the positive side, maybe other than negative sides.
Yes, definitely. Imagine your car that you have right now doesn't have an identity. If you park it there, I can come and take it. You have no way of following up on it to say, oh, that's my car. So it's the same thing with the drugs. We need to be able to say, this drug was manufactured by that factory and it was distributed through that channel. How then do we, if there is a problem down the line, how then do we follow that channel to say, we need to recall this product, it's unsafe for consumption. I think in the past we've seen this happen in production of even foodstuffs. We had the baby formula scandal at some point. Those are the processes that we are saying we need to continuously enhance and continuously look at and refine and make sure that we are adhering to the proper channels and processes.
Absolutely. This is a great discussion, by the way. It's a really important discussion. Since we work in pharma, but of course this is of major concerns for patient health and patient safety. I'm thinking there is also one element to that. Now you were kind enough to share an example, and those are quite straightforward and basically could mean just hijacking a shipment or replacing shipment or whatever to, destroy a lot of value and prohibit health for people who are new to medicine for financial gain, obviously. But there's also a more sensitive topic regarding this, which is more of the systematic falsification. So there's an element of certain companies that has been, I wouldn't say flagged, but recognized, especially from the Food and Drug Administration in the States, which has shared concerns about systematic inputs of API in certain medication where they know that the actual amount of API that creates, sort of, first, let's call it milligrams, the milligrams of an API inside a specific tablet has the same bioavailability. For example, I'll run an easy to understand example. So for normal paracetamol medication that you take for headache or whatever it is, if you have a systematic implementation on one out of many batches, inside that batch, you put only 325 milligram instead of 500 milligram. Then the actual, in pharmaceutical terminology, the dose response curve is actually pretty much the same. So you get the same effect, but you get less API. And when you're talking about contracts with billions of euros, that is a lot of money. So this is also a problem. Do you have any experience on this?
Not exactly, but such kind of feedback, and especially the analytics behind the track and trace. I previously witnessed the launch of the track and trace system in Saudi Arabia. This was copying the model that I think the same company that implemented the track and trace system in Turkey. And the company, in order to sell this to the authorities in Saudi Arabia, they reflected what's behind the track and trace that could help the authorities to invest, because it's a big investment. There is an infrastructure that is implemented not at the level of the entry, but at the level of every level of dispensing, from the entry level to the wholesale distribution to all the levels of distribution until the dispensing. The most attractive and the most appealing thing that is also helpful in pharmacoeconomics is that this could also help in developing a heat map of distribution of diseases across a wide geography like Saudi Arabia, like any other country, of course. So you can monitor the dispensing behavior of any product across a country. So this area, you can find more activity of a certain disease. So you can direct your resources of HCPs, nursing, machines to serve this disease and allocate more hospitals and centers to this area.
It's a very good point.
And maybe certain infection. So we are aware that there might be a pandemic coming here for this infection. So we get aware of the disease before it happens. So this mapping and these analytics that are coming from the track and trace is the bright picture of the track and trace rather than just the negative ones.
True, true. And I think what you just said, sorry, you were right, but what you just said is absolutely super, super important. And that's one of the things, if you think about how you're going to predict these things, even if you use AI, I mean, it's about data. So if you put in the incorrect data, which is why it's so important, but if you don't have the accurate data, if you have falsified medication, you get a different outcome of that data. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, totally agreed. This channel of track and tracing allows us to then be able to predict, like what you just said, pandemics, or even abuse. You can be able to say, no, this medicine is being acquired only by a certain age group. And you can be able to say, why is that happening? And you can then go dig deeper and look into those statistics. I think our efforts at MediConnect, we are in the process of creating like a blockchain track and trace platform to actually counter all these issues, so that we can be able to trace the drug right from the manufacturer up to the end user. The moment you scan the barcode, you should be able to know that, okay, this came from the expiry date and so on. All the details are there on the barcode. So it's efforts like that that will counter all this challenge that we are having in the drug industry.
I'm really glad that you actually jumped in on that, because we've been discussing, of course, within our fields, that blockchain technology is a major step forward. Because, of course, we're not only talking about if somebody comes and hijacks a truck with medication, we're not talking about the most simple form of falsification. We're also talking about being able to track from the actual supplier of the API, which is the active ingredient in the pharmaceuticals, as well as that there may be a situation where in the logistical supply chain, where to make just a straightforward scenario, for example, the truck can be hijacked, or the actual person who drives the truck can be hijacked in between the GMP, the manufacturing site, and the central warehouse stock. And medicine can be stolen and replaced with falsified using, there's all kinds of ways of being deceived. That's why blockchain technology is extremely important. And I think one thing that we see all along in the world overall with all the digitalization, of course, is for example, we have Apple AirTags, which you put them pretty much anywhere to track anything, which is a very simple way of actually tracking different shipments. And based on that, I'm going to leave the word, but I just want to mention one thing, that traceability and drug safety is only as good as the quality technical agreements. So if you have a supplier API, then you have very, very normal, you have a license and supply agreement. That means that one party who is responsible for the marketing authorization is in need of distribution channels. At the same time, they have outsourced production to a production site. They may even have outsourced secondary packaging to another site. So there's so many elements in this So the quality technical agreement that you make, tracking, included, so to speak, in traceability, is to track the entire chain. And you have to be, the technical agreement has to be very specific on, where does your liability or your accountability stop and where does ours start? That is really important.
Correct. There is another element that might be overseen here, which is also adding a burden and a cost on the healthcare systems. Despite all bright sides that we are talking about, this is not cheap, and it's costing a lot that is being passed at the end of the day to the healthcare system. And the healthcare systems are requesting this to be added on the pharmaceutical companies at the end of the day, because pricing is fixed. You cannot add this to the price. So, and healthcare systems cannot afford this. So companies should build the infrastructures and should pay for the track and trace and should have the aggregation files and the aggregation systems and the AI systems that, healthcare systems can build also the track and trace for the sake of their patients. But sometimes in some countries they are requested to contribute to this and pay for this. At the end of the day, as you mentioned, that's for the quality of the product. That's maybe an entry ticket for a healthcare system that is really big. So we should all collaborate towards, at the end of the day, best for the patient. And it's yes for the quality. Like when we look at it from a different angle, like from the car industry. And when a certain brand of cars recall certain model of, let's say, 2018 model of certain car, the braking system is not functioning, let's call all the owners to fix this. You get trust in this brand. So the same applies for the medicine. Let's recall this product because there was a gap in the track and trace system, that this product was not properly stored in the right storage condition. So this develops also trust with the healthcare system. It's
Really, right.
And there are issues of liability as well, because maybe somebody fell sick because of the defect in the medicine. So it's a cocktail of things that we really need to be looking at and considering in as far as the track and tracing process is concerned.
That is so important that you mentioned that. And then referring to the ADRs, the actual drug reaction reporting. And there's no global, we have FDA, the EMA, the MHRA all working together, but there's no global set fixed formula for the way adverse drug reactions should be reported, which is really, really stupid. I apologize for the language. It should be one specific model that everybody can implement, specifically done into AI to actually extract the data, so we know everything about what you just mentioned. One thing I wanted to mention also, no idea about the time. Oh, 5 minutes. This is really interesting. So one thing I'm thinking about also is that there's always the element of financials, obviously. Oh, I just hate having this discussion, but there's always the financial aspect of it. And this is also the reason why today serialization is only basically relevant, not relevant, that's the wrong word. It's only required for prescription drugs. So there's no global requirement for over-the-counter products, which accounts for a very big piece of the pharmaceuticals of the total market value. So I'm referring to the European Medicines Agency and the MHRA. So you don't have to serialize any OTCs. You can if you want, but you don't have to.
My experience here in the region, some countries are requesting serialization for all whatever called pharma products, even of OTC. So that's why it's becoming costly, because it's OTC at the end of the day. It's being sold at nothing, and the API is nothing, and the margins are nothing, and the price is being kept at the lowest reference country across the world. So why? But the good thing here is that the governments or the pricing authorities are quite flexible. That the serialization cost is 1% of the CIF price, so it's still...
Yeah, and that's actually, the region is very far ahead, because this does not account for the FDA. In the States, you don't have to serialize OTC, and in the UK, you don't have to do it, and the EU, you don't have to do it.
Enjoy
So
it.
that's really good for this region.
So there's need for some level of standardization at least, so that all these sectors are covered, all these jurisdictions are covered, and we follow a certain pattern. I agree.
I think that was great. Should we jump into any questions? I know this topic is super boring and you're not in life science, so we enjoyed it. If anybody has any questions, please. Can somebody give her a mic?
Tech team, mic, please.
So this one definitely works. So thanks a lot for bringing this topic. I lived this topic heart and soul when it was deployed in the Gulf, when it was a mandate to have all the pharmaceutical product serialized and now aggregated in some of the Gulf markets. And I'm telling you, it's a very important part of the compliance that we are living in. It's a strong regulation, and whatever even the UAE is having now is more advanced. It is reaching the level of a patient pack that has been released for a patient. If you have any pharmacovigilance issue and you register it, it's very traceable and aggregated. I also recall in Turkey when it was deployed, which is like the #1 market in the Middle East region that deployed the track and trace. We all learned from Turkey. And now with e-commerce coming hugely in Turkey, and the majority of the pharmacies there are not like here, like not chain, but individually owned. There is a very big struggle in activating e-commerce and building the trust in the QR code. So we have to watch out with this compliance aspect. We do deploy it very well in the Middle East. E-commerce is coming at a very high pace, and we don't want to lose this trust in the QR code. What I really like now that it has extended into replacing the leaflet even. So what we are missing in Big Pharma is educating the user. So the user doesn't know his right 100%. If I think about my father and my mother, they don't know that they have this right of having this medicine traced. So yes, it is going in a very good pace in the Gulf area, let me call it well, in Turkey. In Pakistan, I know it's going into a very big progress, but still in Africa, it is not there. So it's our responsibility to spread this, because it will come back to what Tony was talking about, which is adverse reaction, if this is efficient medicine or not, the feedback that has to come to the company, the compliance control that has to be put on pharmaceutical companies to make sure that they are providing very efficient medicine to the patients. Thank you.
Very good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there was more, not so many questions in there, but I think it didn't need to be, because we completely agree with you. Anybody else have questions, or anybody wants to reply to that?
That was a perfect closing for the last.
I agree.
You did the work for us. Thank you for closing.
Okay.
All right, a round of applause for our panel. And if you gentlemen can take a step to the front of the stage so we can take a group photograph. I'm in a very love-hate relationship with AI. Just because I love the capabilities of it, but then there's also such big risks that people will not use that technology for good. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you.